What if we did the whole podcast with those voices?
I think I might have a tank of helium outside.
Merry Christmas week, friends. What's up? How's it going? Welcome to the Don't Stifle Me podcast. My name is Jacob Stee-full. And before we get to today's episode, just in case you didn't know, this podcast is listener funded. Now, what that means is instead of me reading a bunch of commercials right now, for the time being, I'm going to leave it up to you folks out there listening. If you enjoy the talks and you want to keep hearing more, please go check out patreon.com/DSM podcast. There, for as little as $1 or $3 a month, not only do you get to help keep this thing going, but you get access to exclusive behind-the-scenes pictures, videos, and MP3 downloads of some of the songs that we play, and a lot more. And actually, later this week, I'm going to be uploading a bunch of new stuff on there. So go check it out. And once again, that is patreon.com/DSM podcast. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, today's guest is my good friend, one of my favorite drummers I've ever played with, and an all-around awesome guy, Shakey Fowlkes, Jeff Shakey Fowlkes. Shakey is one of those guys, I feel like if I didn't play music, I wouldn't be cool enough to hang out with Shakey. He's that cool of a guy. Does that make sense? I don't know. It does to me, anyway. He's got a great story from his first band that he was in the 80s called Second Self, to Robert Bradley's Blackwater Surprise that he did in the 90s, to hanging out with Kid Rock in Kid Rock's early days around Detroit. And now he's on the road with the hard blues trio, Too Slim and the Tail Draggers. We covered all of that and a lot more. So here is my talk with Shakey Fowlkes.
Pick it up from piano.
Shakey Fowlkes, ladies and gentlemen, is here, and you are from?
Originally, I was born in Biloxi, Mississippi.
Right.
And I still have a lot of family down there.
Yeah.
As far as my cousins. And I've got one uncle that's still alive who I talk to almost every day of my life, Mr. Mark Abear.
Oh, okay.
That's, for you folks that don't know, that's Hebert. But we say it the French way, Hébert.
Okay. Yeah, Louisiana folk.
Yeah, so I'm a coon ass.
And then you moved, how old were you when you moved north?
I moved north in, about second grade.
Yeah.
I think it was first, about halfway into the first grade.
Sorry, I had to grab some water. I can grab water.
You know what? Hurricane Camille, well, down there they say hurricane.
Hurricane? Okay.
Yeah. And anyway, Hurricane Camille came and freaking redid the coastline.
Yeah.
And we evacuated to New Orleans, of all places. So we stayed at my Aunt Betty's house in a townhouse on St. Charles. And I remember she kept yelling at us kids, stay away from the windows. And I couldn't help it. I'd look outside and everything that was supposed to be nailed down or on the ground was constantly flying around in the air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty terrifying, Anyway, after the damage, we went and looked at what was left of our house. It was my mom and dad, myself, and I don't even think my youngest sister was born yet. No, she wasn't.
Did y'all have hurricane insurance?
I have no idea. I don't even know if they had that back then. Anyway, I remember my dad saying, "Look, I can't afford this. We can't replace all this, and this happens all the time."
Yeah.
And his brother, my Uncle Jerry, I think had already moved north and was I think he was up in Detroit, and he had gotten in with the pipe fitters union. And my dad was already my dad had already worked in the shipyards and then on some of the offshore rigs running pipe. And he said, you know what, I think we're going to move I think we're going to go north. We moved to upstate New York, and I missed my pawpaw and my mama, and I missed, because pawpaw was the one that got me into singing, and I remember I got a little guitar, and I remember when I first learned E, A, and D.
Yeah.
And
I'm unstoppable now.
Oh my God. And I ran, and we lived in these, by then we had lived in Michigan, but I remember running home with my little Grinnell's guitar. Mom, Dad, look, I could play these chords now,
I can do a song.
But no, we had moved to upstate New York, and now mind you, I'm a Southern boy originally, and I had never seen snow.
Yeah.
I mean, and I
moved
think
to upstate New York.
We moved to upstate New York, just outside of Syracuse and Oswego.
Yeah.
And we lived out in the country. We lived in a little trailer, and we stayed there for about maybe just over a year, and then my dad got the call. He was going to get in the union in Detroit.
Yeah.
And so we packed up, and I was kind of sad, man. I'd gotten used to kind of,
the northern ways.
Yeah, I'd gotten used to, the snow, and then I liked the fishing, and I liked, I just kind of like being kind of out there where we were.
So you were like 7 when you went to Detroit?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yep. I think
And your
about
dad
7 years old.
did he do pipe fitting there? Is that what he did?
That's what he did.
I think my favorite story about your dad was the one where he was doing something with some parts, and they started getting in parts from like China or Japan or somewhere. And what did he do?
We're talking about the union here.
Yeah.
When the big, I don't know if he was working for the big three at that time. They might have been building an assembly line, or
Big three being like Ford, Chevy.
Ford, Chrysler, and GM.
Yeah.
And they were, I think it was one of those jobs, and they kept bringing pipe fittings and dropping them at my dad's workstation. Excuse me. And he kept having his apprentice call the forklift over and telling him, he was like, you just take all this stuff and you put it in that dumpster over there. So this went on for, I'm not sure if it went on for half a day or all the way to lunch. And finally I think it was the what do you call it? The supervisor, the steward, or the job, come out and, God damn it, folks. What in the hell is wrong with all these parts? And he immediately held it up. He goes, you see that? It says made in China. He goes, I'm not putting my hands on any of this stuff, and I'm not going to take responsibility for using any of this stuff in my work. Welcome to the USA.
So he's just throwing them away.
Yeah. Local union 630, pipe fitters local union 636. Get this shit out of here.
When did you start playing drums? Were you already, banging around on stuff at that point? Or
I remember this kid that I knew when we lived in New York. He was a few years older than me, but our family, our family hung out with their family, and my dad had become really close friends with his dad. Anyway, what was it? Oh, Buddy Bedell. And he had this snare drum, and I heard him practicing one day, and I was like, man, I want to try that. And he showed me a little bit, and I was just drawn to it, And then we moved, and we got to Detroit, and I kept thinking about that damn snare drum, And then a couple years go by, I'm up I think we're in about the 5th grade or something like that, and the junior high music teacher comes to the elementary school and says, we're going to have we're going to have a little assembly for the band tryouts.
Yeah.
When y'all move up to middle school and junior high school, And so I was like, cool. Both my neighbor kids, they were a couple years older than me. they played trumpet. And I thought that was kind of cool, So I was like, maybe I'll play the trumpet. And so they had this assembly after lunch, and they showed us the saxophone and the flute and the trumpet and the trombone and the clarinet and a bunch of different instruments, that you play in school band.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll play the trumpet, And at the end of the assembly, the band teacher says, if anybody wants to stay afterwards to try out for drums, you can do that. And I looked at my buddy Craig Fowler, and he goes, we don't have to go back to class. And I said,
and we get to play drums.
Yeah, let's try out for drums.
Yeah.
And so everybody left except it was me and Craig. There was a couple other kids. I can't remember exactly who it was. There was actually another kid who was already a really good drummer, wanted nothing to do with the school band. Huh. And I was just like, wow, you're not going to try out? And he was just like, nah, I play rock and roll, man. We're all 11 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we stay after, and they had us tapping out like right, left, a paradiddle.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was. And they would play these little rhythms on the desktop, and then you had to mimic it.
Right.
And
to see who had that talent or whatever.
And I was the first pick, and I'm like, I'm going to be a drummer.
Yeah.
So
there it was.
It started all over again.
That's where it started. So when did you start playing, go from school band drums to full drum set, jamming to rock and roll with your buddies?
After about a year in the school band, they picked a few of us out of that outfit to learn how to play some swing. Oh. And so they put me on a kick drum and a snare drum. I don't even think I had a hi-hat yet there.
Yeah.
They said, put me on a kick, and they had Craig standing next to me, and he was playing the ride cymbal. And I just remember going home.
Teamwork.
Well, I just remember going home thinking, man, I can play the ride cymbal too. I could play the whole dang thing. But, teamwork. Right. So we did our little concert like that. And then, and the high school band teacher, junior high band teacher were just like, you guys sounded really good. And maybe it's time for you to get a drum set, Yeah. And I was just like frothing, you know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, yeah, I want this kit. So my dad's like, all right, let's go look for a drum kit. He takes me.
Were they supportive of the music?
Yeah.
And playing? And all
Yeah. My parents, they weren't crazy about all the noise in the house,
Yeah.
I tried to, I put the drums in the basement, and I had I took some old quilts and blankets and kind of hung them up around it just to try to
help a little bit.
Help with the noise, At first I stuck the drums upstairs in my living room, and the whole neighborhood was just like, oh, no, because it was just blaring right out the walls, what I'm saying? It's two floors up, and they were just like, no. But yeah, they were supportive of it, but my dad was driving me nuts, man. He was like, so you really want a drum set? I'm like, yeah. So I'd look in the classified ads, and I'd find, Old Rogers Kid or Ludwig and this and that. We went and looked at a couple used ones, Of course, Dad had a glow on. It's Saturday or Sunday afternoon. We're driving around and just pick up, going to these people's houses after I called them on right out of the newspaper, know? And he was like, you like it? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And we'd leave. He wouldn't buy it. I was like, you son of a bitch. So then he takes me to the music store where it's all brand new stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, this is awesome. It's a big 7-piece Rogers. There's a black kit and a white one. I go, well, I want the white one because this other kid in school, he's got a black one. I'll take the white one, And we left. He didn't buy it. I was like, damn it.
What are you doing to me? Yeah.
So I went and got a morning paper route. and then I'm saving my money.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm not making the money fast enough. So then I kept my morning route, and then this other kid gave me his afternoon route for a few months.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 months. So I did both of those, and then I found this little drum set, and then my dad said, "I'll match you."
Okay.
So I think we had to pay $300 and some change for it. Was a Premier. It was an Olympic by Premier.
Yeah.
So it was an entry level kit made in England. You know? But it was orange sparkle. It was cool, man. I was just like, man, this is so cool.
I'm sure it also probably meant more to you since you worked and had to save up your money to pay for half of it or whatever.
Right.
I'm sure it meant more in the long run.
The day that I had enough money, to between what my dad was giving me and what I had, I didn't deliver the papers anymore. I was such a douchebag.
Fuck it, I'm out.
I was like, I just left him on the porch, or I started the route, and I was just like, screw this, man. I don't need this.
Yeah.
And all these people are calling my house. My mom's like, you didn't deliver their paper. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. What'd you do with the papers?
I think I threw them in the dumpster at the school. So I felt
rock
bad.
and
So
roll.
I'm like, oh man. So I went and dug them all out.
Oh,
and
yeah?
then I went and gave him the paper, and then
Yeah.
I called the paper boss guy, and I was just like, I don't want to deliver papers anymore.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks went by. I'm like, I ain't got no money.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, I ain't got no money. So I think I was about 13. So I lied. I went and I got a job working at a little diner as a busboy.
Yeah.
I told him I was 16, and but I got hired, and I was like, I think I was making minimum wage was $190, or I think it was $180 or $190.
Yeah.
At that time, and then while I was there, it got bumped up to $235.
Ooh.
And I was like, I'm making 3 times more now than I was with that stupid paper route,
Should have just done this to begin with.
Right.
At what point did it hit you? You're like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is what, like, as far as long term.
As soon as I got that kit to my house,
Yeah.
and my dad threw on a Doobie Brothers record, and I put the headphones on,
Yeah.
and I just started playing to it, and then he put on the Bob Seger Live Bullet,
Oh, yeah.
which I broke my first drumstick to Nutbush City Limits.
That's great.
You
It's
know.
a story.
Playing Charlie Martin was a drummer
Okay.
on that Live Bullet stuff. And years later, I became friends with Charlie.
Oh.
We're still friends today.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like that day,
Yeah.
playing along.
Start
with that
playing in
stuff.
bands like in high school, doing gigs and stuff.
Me and this piano player who I'm still friends with today, Danny Hess. He played. He was the guy like in 6th, 7th grade that was a virtuoso on piano,
Yeah.
and a badass guitar player, and he could play the trumpet. So he was like the utility guy.
Yeah.
Right out of the gate, and he would come over to my house a lot. I think he had a Fender Rhodes or something, and just me and him would play, and then a couple other guys. This other friend of mine, Greg White, who I'm still friends with today, he played guitar, and then he would come over, and then he had a friend. What was his name? Guy looked just like Joey Ramone, Dana Smith. Dana was older than us.
That's a lot of names you remember,
And he played,
Shakey.
I can't remember if Dana played bass. Well, Greg played. They both would switch off playing
Yeah.
bass. So I had a couple different groups I was like working with. I mean, I say working with. We were just like
Jamming and figuring things out.
figuring
Yeah.
stuff out. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I played "Evil Ways" by Santana. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like in one day. How many songs you know? One.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And we would play it for 3 hours. I ended up in high school. I started doing. I played with another couple guys, and we were like all prog rock. They made me learn all the Rush The first, like, a bunch of the first 4 records. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm getting sleepy already just thinking about it.
Oh, it was work. I was just like, I'm like, man, this guy's fast, and he's got all these, and it's all these weird time signatures and all that. But I was like, it was work, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, it does.
It was a
teach
challenge.
You a lot, and you learn. Yeah.
And so I learned a bunch of that, and then we won a couple talent shows or a talent show with it, and then they took me to Sea Rush.
Yeah.
You know, and
So you hadn't even seen him at that
no,
point.
I hadn't even seen him yet. I think I got into him when Spirit of Radio came out, and then, but I mean, I'd say I got into it. Yeah, I mean, I discovered them then,
Right?
And then when Tom Sawyer came out, we went to that concert, and I remember about an hour into the show, these guys were older than me, the guys I played with that was at the show. They're like, "What do you think? What do you think?" And I was like, "Man, these guys are great, but man, there ain't no chicks here, man. Let's go see the Stones."
Yeah. That's I can see that being true. It's a bunch of music nerds here at this
Yeah,
show.
yeah, you know. I mean, I'm glad I learned that kind of stuff, you know, but there's nothing like playing a pocket.
Yeah.
You know,
just groove.
Yeah,
rock
there's
and roll,
there's nothing like it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes people dance.
Yeah, I love looking back and seeing like when we're grooving on something and just like the bounce and sheer joy that you can see in your face, like when you're playing, you're just in it.
And I'm 150 years old now, folks, and I still love it.
When, like after high school, what was the next step? What did you do?
I'd already had a group of guys together. We were already doing the club scene in Detroit. We were writing songs. We pressed up a little 45, and
What was the band name?
It was a band called Second Self.
Second Self. All right.
Oh, it's all like deep and, you know, whatever. I can't even remember how we came up with that, but it stuck. And it was more of an alt rock. I mean, we had makeup on, you know. We had makeup on. We had Duran Duran haircuts, you know what I'm saying? We were playing the Detroit scene, and we ended up getting an opening spot for In Excess, who they were already on their second record, and they were killing it.
Yeah.
We got the spot because I can't remember. They had somebody touring with them that either got kicked off the tour or had to leave the tour or whatever. So we ended up we did a show with them, and it was supposed to lead to more shows, but then our singer decided to bail a week after we did this big show. And
wow,
he was like, "Man, I got accepted at college," and it was just a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember he told us at practice, and I was just like, "Really?" I'm like, "So we did all this, and we're all the way. We're right here.
Things are starting to happen."
And hey, you know, I didn't talk to him for a long time. Well, he moved away.
Yeah.
But he actually lives in Nashville now, and we reconnected about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I still talk to him occasionally, but so we were like, "What are we gonna do?" Well, the bass player was like, "My brother lives in New York. His brother had a record deal with this other band, but he was kind of wanting to come and play with us." I said, "We need a lead singer." And so it kind of, when you change your lead singer, folks, it kind of changes the whole dynamic.
Right.
You know, it changes the sound. And adding him to the band kind of, I like the direction it went in. It went more of it just went more rock.
Yeah.
You know, we were sort of trying to find our way.
Right.
But we got a record deal.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
we got a record deal with EMI at the time, and so we ended up going to Muscle Shoals to do our record.
Huh.
And met all of the Swampers and got to hang out with those guys that whole summer. It was like 80.
Not bad.
It was, now by then it was the late 80s. It was like 88, I think.
Yeah.
It might have been 88. And 88 or 89.
Yeah.
I can't remember. And so we did our record down there, and the record came out, nothing happened. you know. But they let us do a second record, and we did another one. We went to Los Angeles to do that record and did it at Ocean
So was it still
Way.
in the days of where they would like
give you a whole bunch of
give
money.
the money for the record deal or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean for the recording.
Yeah, they'd give you. You'd come up. You'd submit a budget, and they'd front it to you. And I think it was a 90-10 deal.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't think it was a 8. I mean, that was typical of the day. 85-15, 90-10,
Meaning
95-5.
that y'all got 85% and they would get 50%.
Of course. No.
In your dreams.
Yeah. It was more like a how would you say it? A 12-13% to you and the rest to them.
Yeah. Wow. That's
That's why
little.
And that's why you had to sell 10 million records to
make any money
to buy a used Lincoln.
Yeah. Where'd you record in LA when you went out there?
Ocean Way.
Oh, yeah.
Ocean Way. And we did that in 91. And it was a rough time for me. My mother got sick right before we went to do the record. And so I was going back and forth. And she eventually, while I was at home, she passed away.
Was she still in Detroit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of flying in and out and trying to make this record. And
Were your parents still together at that point?
No, my parents had split up. My parents had split up when I was a teenager.
Okay.
And so I was kind of sort of the man of the house,
Yeah.
through high school or, later, last couple years in high school and trying to do the music thing. And I was like, well, I ain't going to be able to go to college. I'm just going to keep playing music. I wasn't going to be able to afford college.
Right.
I'm sure I could have got a loan and student loan. And I know people that are my age that are still paying off their freaking student loans.
Oh, yeah. There's people like my age that when they're like 50, are still going to be paying off their student loans.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, whatever. I chose the road that I chose, I guess, or it's actually, it picks you. You don't really pick it. You got to go to college. You got a hell of a degree.
Yeah.
This
is true.
And the music just kind of it corners you.
Yeah. It definitely has a hold. I can't. It's when you love it and it's what you're driven to. It's hard to say no. When did we're in these bands and stuff? Was it a lot of partying going on, like drinking and stuff, like through the 80s? 80s rock and roll band. You mean y'all partied?
Are you kidding me? We were nice fellas, but we weren't altar boys.
Yeah, Was this the group that had what was that party you told me about one time where the guy was like dancing around like putting baby powder or something on a guy?
That was the group.
Was it? What was happening that night?
We were in L.A. It was right before we weren't recording our second record yet. We might have been playing a gig, or actually, I think we were in L.A. playing a gig. We were on a run in California, and we were staying at this little place right at the end of Hollywood. It was like Hollywood and Laurel, where the kind of Hollywood Boulevard kind of ends right there.
Yeah.
It's either Laurel. It's one over from Fairfax. I can't really remember.
Yeah.
It was like this little hotel with this cool little built-in pool. It was old school, And when we were in Hollywood or LA, we would always stay there.
Yeah.
So it was us and some other friends of ours. There was another band out of Detroit called it was the Junk Monkeys.
Yeah.
And they had just played the Whiskey, but they had just gotten signed to Metal Blade, and because these guys would tour relentlessly in their van. They would pair up with the Goo Goo Dolls, and and it was before either one of them had any sort of big radio success.
Right.
We would just go out there and book the gigs and hope people would show up.
Yeah.
Not much has changed, but I mean, it's definitely more in our corner now that we can.
Well, yeah, there's more ways to get the word out.
Yeah,
let people know.
The internet really made it artist friendly. You just got to figure out the angle of how you want to snag.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're partying, and my one of the kids that worked for us, he was like our little gopher. Like he would help us set up and stuff. And his name was Carlo. We called him Low Man. Anyway, Low Man's, we're in a suite, right? So there's a kitchen, a couple bedrooms. It's just like it's a suite,
Right.
Well, one of our pals had passed out early on the couch, and he was shirtless, and I don't even think he had any shoes on. He was just in his bathing suit, It's about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning by now, or maybe even later.
Yeah.
He's passed out, and he was our sound man. And anyway, he's passed out on the couch. Party's in full swing. Low Man, every time he'd walk past Al, he had a bottle of baby powder. He would dump a little on his forehead. We didn't realize this was going on for about 20 minutes when I happened to look at Al, and he had like a freaking Mount Everest on his forehead.
Yeah.
And I looked at Carlo, and I'm like, Al's not going to like that very much.
Yeah.
Al and Carlo did not get along all that well on the road. And Carlo looked at me and said, yeah, he's not going to like it very much, but you know what he's really not going to like? He's really not going to like this. And he just started punching him in the head or in the chest or something and woke him up.
Yeah.
And up jumps Al Sutton with I think his hair was almost to the middle of his back, right? That's how long it was. And it's just like a cloud of dust.
When he jumped up,
and all the powder's all over him, and it's like a scene from Blow.
Yeah.
Except he looked like Cousin It, And so Al runs around, and Al just starts freaking. I got pushed through a glass table or a window wall.
Yeah.
Al just starts. It's a full on brawl, and he's like out of his mind, and we're just trying to like calm him down and tackling him and prevent any more violence, I ended up getting stitches in the back of my arm and this and that. But Al got so mad at all of us that he just ran out with just his shorts on. Well, what he did was he ran out to the band van.
Yeah.
And passed out.
In the back seat or something?
Yeah, in the back seat. Well, an hour later, one of the guys in the band kind of hooks up with one of the cuties at the party.
Yeah.
And she's like, let's go to my house. Well, he takes her. They jump in the band van. She lives up in Beverly Hills somewhere.
Yeah.
They don't know Al's asleep in the back. And they drive over to her place and park on the street and go in and, do it, teenagers.
Do the deed,
And, they're hanging out. They're having a good old time. Well, the sun starts coming up. It's hot in the van. Al wakes up hungover, covered in baby powder. No keys, no shoes, no shirt.
Probably no idea what's happened.
And looks out the window and goes, this isn't the parking garage.
We just have to like hang out and wait.
He's like on Rodeo Drive or something, and he's like all in the heart of all the mansions. And he's like, oh my God, I can't get out and walk around. I'll get arrested. So he just had to sit in the van.
Yeah.
Because he knew one of us, one of us had taken the van for, whatever.
Just had to sit there and wait. Yeah,
exactly. So that's one road story.
When did that just kind of fizzle out or something as that band?
What happened was EMI got taken over, bought out by SBK, I think is what it was. Yeah. And so basically we were at the bottom of the totem pole.
Right.
We were still like a startup. Even though it was our second record.
They were basically just kind of hoping something.
Right. Well, we're like right in the middle of mixing the record, and half the acts on EMI got cut.
Yeah.
So it was like, I ended up moving back to Detroit. It was sad. We lost our record deal.
Well, yeah, you put that much time and effort into something.
We lost the record deal. I was emotionally challenged because my mother had passed away, and I was still not dealing with that very well.
Yeah.
I had to go back home and then and figure out what me and my sisters were going to do with the house.
Right.
How
about relationships through all this? Did you ever get married or?
I wasn't. No,
anything?
I had a few girlfriends along the way.
That was another thing the internet hampered. Right?
Yeah, I kind of remember when our first, I don't even know if they called it a web page.
Yeah.
But I remember our manager what did he call it? He had, it was a website or something for a band that I played with later.
Yeah.
And there was a page where, the fans could just like go on.
It was like a chat room or a forum or something.
That's what it was. It was a forum.
Yeah.
And they would just go on there and boy, some stuff showed up, and I called the manager and I was like, you dumbasses need to freaking get rid of this thing right now.
Yeah.
Okay? Because this...
We can't have girls in Colorado know that I was with a girl in North Carolina last night.
Well, and then the things that they would put on there were totally inappropriate.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I was like, this is not... Everybody knows what a rock and roll band does.
Yeah, we don't need people.
I mean, we got pulled over in the band van one time. I got pulled over in New Jersey on the Parkway, and it's two cops, both of them with the chin straps, in the GI Joe haircuts.
Yeah,
and they're young guys, and they come up to the van, and they're like, the reason we pulled you over was because you guys went up the dirt mound, and I go, yeah, because there was a wreck. And everybody was going over that hill and getting back on the road.
Yeah.
Why don't you go pull everybody else over too? And he goes, Mr. Fowlkes, do you mind stepping out of the van? And we didn't have half the band. We were on our way to New York City. I had Robert with me, and we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
And I had Tim. Anyway, we got pulled. He goes, step out a minute. I'm like, sure. What's going on? He goes, I have reason to believe that you have marijuana. I go, no, there's no pot in the van. And he goes, but it smells like pot in there. And I go, officer, I can't remember his name. I said, this is a band van. Everything that you could possibly imagine that a band does has happened in this van. Okay. So and we've had this van for a couple of years. Okay. So but I can guarantee you there is not one illegal ounce, gram, speck of anything in this van right now.
Right now. Yeah.
Okay. Right now. I can't guarantee you that tonight at 8:00, but right now there's nothing. We ended up signing a couple CDs for him, and they let us go.
Yeah. So you mentioned Robert Bradley. That's who you were referring to. When did that come along?
Well, Second Self kind of ran its course. But me and two of the brothers that were in the band, we had already kind of had a sort of a practice-based studio.
Yeah. Wait, so what was first? What came first? The studio with like Meeting Kid Rock and all that stuff, or
that was later?
That was later. Okay. So
the studio we put together in downtown Detroit. That was first.
Okay.
It started out as it was just a place for us to practice. Yeah. It was the third floor on the old Capitol Park building, overseeing Capitol Park. One of the guy's cousins owned the building. He had a toy store on the first floor. He goes, I got all these empty floors, man. Go check them out. And the third floor, apparently, I found part of the sign was the Fred Astaire dance studio in Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was there was probably a Fred Astaire dance studio in every major city at some point. So all the floors were wood, like old thick wood floors all through. And I'm talking about probably about 4,000 to 5,000 square feet of space, that was broken down into about 3 different rooms, had a bathroom. So over time, we went in and floated a proper control room, and we started, those guys started buying a lot of gear, I bought a lot of beer. They bought a lot of gear.
Yeah.
I'm just the dumb drummer. Those guys kind of knew like the ropes, and Michael already he was the guitar player and the lead singer at the time. He already kind of had been making home recordings. And, I mean, he knew the ropes as far as like where to put the mics and what kind of mics to use, And anyway, over time, we turned it into a proper studio. Yeah. But the Second Self thing, once we lost the record deal, we kind of tried to hang. It had run its course, Right. It was music had changed, I started playing with some other people in Detroit. But the brothers kept writing songs, and the other brother decided he wanted to be a singer. So I would go down there and I'd cut some tracks with them, even though we weren't officially doing Second Self anymore.
Right.
I'd go down and cut some stuff with them. And those guys got really good at their tones that they were getting. They started buying vintage gear, and tube mics, and I remember they paid me to drive the van to LA to go pick up this old API console that had originally belonged to the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, wow.
So
From Detroit?
From Detroit.
Yeah.
So me and this other kid, I can't remember his name, man. He kind of rode shotgun. We took the band van.
Road trip.
And and that was back when you could still buy real white crosses at the gas station.
Oh, yeah. Speed,
So
yeah.
I think I made it to LA in 43 hours from Detroit. Yeah. There was no stopping.
Yeah.
I watched the sun go up and down twice.
Wow.
Anyway, so we started buying all this older gear because you could still get it at a reasonable price,
Yeah.
because it just sounded better,
Yeah.
like the old Neumann mics, the Telefunk and stuff, and while I was doing this stuff with them, they wanted me to come down. I think it was on the weekend. It was a Saturday or a Sunday. I'd played the night before. They wanted me. I said, man, I'll be there around 10 or 11, something like that. Folks, this is back in the day, where 10 o'clock meant 1.
Yeah.
I'm showing up hungover. And anyway, I was running late. I was going down there. I had to park about 3 blocks from the studio. And I didn't know if somebody was playing a horn and they had the windows open in the studio, or if somebody was in the park.
Yeah.
Playing, because there was a lot of street musicians. You'd see a lot of blues guys, or people busking around that area occasionally, But I could hear this melody, man, and I was just like, what is that? It was blowing my mind. As I got closer to the entrance to the studio, it was a blind dude sitting across the street from the studio with an acoustic guitar, smoking cigarettes, and singing his ass off.
Yeah.
I totally did not go upstairs. I'm already running late. I just walked over and I just started throwing money in this guy's guitar case and just listened to him. I listened to him for about 15 minutes, and then I went upstairs.
So he was by himself?
He had a friend with him.
Okay.
He had somebody with him at the time. It might have been one of his brothers.
Yeah.
I went upstairs, and those guys were like, man, you're late, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, look, man, it's not like I'm really on the clock here.
Yeah.
We're demoing stuff. We're trying to write songs,
Yeah.
Has anybody happened to hear the blind gentleman downstairs singing these awesome songs? And the one brother was like, yeah, I thought I heard something out the window. I'm like, you need to come down here and check this out.
Yeah.
And the other brother was just like, fuck that, man. No. Man, we got to I want to do my songs. And I was like, we'll get to your songs, man. But really come downstairs. This is stellar. I've never heard nothing like this.
Yeah.
So mind you,
it was Robert Bradley.
It was Robert Bradley.
Yeah.
It was Robert Bradley. So finally, those guys came down, and we probably listened. We sat there and listened to him for an hour.
Yeah.
And then we introduced ourselves to him and we swapped numbers.
Yeah.
We're like, put this in your wallet. This is the number if you want to remember. If you're ever interested in recording some of this stuff, we have a studio right there. And Robert goes, oh, y'all are the ones making all that racket? I was like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, all right. So we didn't hear from him for probably about a half a year.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't hear from him until I think it was springtime, and so he called us. He called the brothers, and then him and his girlfriend came down one night to the studio, and we just set him up on a stool and put Mike the guitar and his vocal, and we were like, just play us everything you got, man. We're just gonna record. We'll tell you when tape runs out.
So when he came in and did that, were y'all just like, okay, will you please be our singer and we'll be your band? Or like, at what point did that happen?
It really didn't go that way. I mean, it was in the back of my mind the whole time, but we originally, so we cut all this stuff and then we made copies of everything, and I would just listen on a cassette.
Yeah.
Listen in my car every day and just listen to this stuff. I'm like, man, this guy's so good, man. It has an ancient quality to it.
Yeah, it sounds like an old blues guy that's just singing his soul.
Right.
That's what it,
right. And it's, yeah. And so we made copies of it. Originally, the brothers were using some of our record people connections to maybe try to get him a publishing deal.
Yeah.
You know, and a few people, you know, checked him out. We actually took him. We took Robert. I said we took him. We booked him down at South by Southwest back in the early years.
Oh wow!
You know, and got him a little showcase, and plus I was down there playing with somebody else at the time as well. We were all down there. We weren't all necessarily playing together.
Yeah.
But we were kind of all down there in support of Robert just to see how people would take him, you know. And it was that night that my friend Peter Robinson was there, and he liked it. Peter's a publisher here in town, here in Nashville.
Yeah.
And we're still friends to this day. But it was that night, I'm pretty sure I said to Peter, I said, what if me and Michael and Andrew put a band behind this?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and he was like, try it, you know? And so
I was listening to some of the stuff this morning, and it's awesome, but you can tell that it's got that like early mid 90s soulful rock vibe to it. Like like his voice sounds like straight out of the 30s or something.
Right.
But then with like music from like that era, it's really cool. It's got like good, yeah.
Our goal at the time, I mean, we were listening to, it's like, hey, we got a guy with this kind of voice. Let's listen to, you know, not that it wasn't like it was, oh, I've just discovered Motown.
Right.
We just reached back into that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, listen to how these records sound, and then listen to, and then like Levon Helm and the band and Robbie Robertson, listen to how this sounds.
Yeah.
You know, even and listen to the early Zepp stuff. So we're listening to stuff from the mid 60s all the way into the early 70s, you know, and we had all that gear at the studio. And folks, you got to be able to play. Do you know what I'm saying? You got to know how to play.
Yeah.
But having that kind of equipment, you know, to capture it, lends to the whole vibe.
Yeah.
You know, and that played a very important part, and it also kind of played an important part in those two brothers went on to start a company called Vintage King Audio. This is not a commercial for them, but it worked out very, very well for them.
So they held on to all that stuff through the years. And
what they did was influence other people's, you know, wanting to record that way.
Yeah.
And so they started, they would find all the old stuff, refurb it, and make it right.
Yeah.
And selling it.
And then make some money on it.
And make, not some.
Yeah.
A whole bunch.
Yeah.
But they're still doing that to this day. I think they're probably the top dogs in
Vintage
the game.
King?
Vintage King Audio. Yeah, they're probably.
There you go, people. If you're looking for a $30,000 microphone, they'll probably hook you up.
Not just one.
So this another one of my favorite Shakey Fowlkes stories. Were you with Robert in New York City when you were driving and the trailer doors were open?
Oh my God. We were staying. We had played the night before and nobody had any sleep because we were staying at the Millennium, which disappeared on 9/11, but that's a whole different story. We were staying at the Millennium, and it was, I mean, you know, we were just painting the town red all night long.
Yeah.
Right? We had to catch a plane. The crew was going to stay with the gear. They were dropping us off at the airport, and then they were going to meet us somewhere along the way. We had to fly out and go to Chicago for a House of Blues show or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. But I might have had an hour and a half of sleep, you know, and it was an early call. It was like a 7:30 a.m. call, you know, and everybody was just a mess.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't remember who pulled the van and trailers downstairs, and we're loading up, you know, all our gear was in there, but we're loading our luggage.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just kind of throwing it in where, you know, we got to go.
Right.
Because we're in Manhattan. We got to get through town and then either take the bridge or one of the tunnels. And I can't remember I think we were flying out of Newark.
Yeah.
So which is in Jersey. So anyway, you know, we had our work cut out for us, right?
Yeah.
I'm in the driver's seat. I'm like, oh, okay, I can navigate us through this, you know. And folks, this is long before you could get distracted by your phone and it would tell you make a right, make a left. I was just like, no, I know my way around. So, and we're going up. I can't remember. We're probably going up Broadway, right?
Yeah.
You know, right up through the center of town, and we're all talking about last night and and coffee spilling. I'm hitting potholes.
Half drunk, half hungover.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, a little more than half drunk. You know. So we're just going along, and we've probably gone 12 to 15 blocks.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and it's stop and go the whole way. You know. And I say stop and go in New York City for the folks that haven't driven there. When the light turns green, you step on it, and then you get to, and then when the next light comes up and it's red, you slam on the brakes and honk the horn, you know, at the same time. That's just the way they roll there. I get to the red light, and this cab driver who's been honking his horn at me for 5 blocks, right? He finally pulls up next to me. And he's got the big towel wrapped around his head, so he's obviously from somewhere else. And he rolls down the window, and he's, "Excuse me." I'm like, "Yes, sir. Can I help you? I have seen at least..." No, he goes, I messed it up. He goes, "Your trailer doors are wide open. I have seen at least 3 to 4 packages fall out." I'm like, oh, no. The light turns green. He takes off. I throw it in park, put the hazards on, silence over the van for about maybe 1 second, and then all of a sudden, every door of the van breaks open. Every drunk motherfucker, every drunk ass jumps out.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing. I'm laughing so hard. I'm laughing.
Seen at least 3 packages
Well,
fall
because
out.
I'm like, well, I didn't put any of my luggage in the trailer. I knew I had all my stuff tucked in behind the seat, right, the driver's seat. I was just going with a backpack just for the one-off in Chicago, right? That's all I'm flying with. So, but I didn't know if the kick drum fell out. I didn't know if gear fell out. Anyway, I look in the mirrors, and I just see all my guys. It looks like the Three Stooges, just serpentine from one side of the street to the other, looking in garbage cans to see if people threw stuff in there. And this, I'm laughing so hard that the girls working at the car wash right on the corner, they just start laughing. You know, laughter is contagious, folks.
Yeah.
You know.
How long did the Robert Bradley thing last?
Well, let's see. I think I'd stayed with him for about 9 years.
Yeah.
You know?
So
But-
the Kid Rock thing happened while the Robert Bradley thing was like, did Kid Rock come in and record?
Yeah, the Kid Rock thing happened. Like,
Was this the studio that you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, same studio, and Kid Rock had already been making noise around Detroit.
Yes, because I know prior to the Devil Without a Cause album, which is what did that. Prior to that, I remember he had one that had a song on it called "My Balls in Your Mouth."
I think he probably cut that one at our studio, along with Bull God and there was he had done I think he had done one cassette or one CD prior to coming to us, but he had, which one was that? Cocky?
This is the Devil Without a Cause.
Oh, that's Devil. No, they did Devil at our place, and then there was Early Morning Stone Pimp, which was right before that.
Yeah, 96.
He did that one at our place, and I think there was some before that. When he came to us, he was like, "Hey, man, I need a place to record." We kind of made a deal with him. He was, and we were like, "Man, we've got this B room. You can use that." You know what I'm saying? And just turn the lights off and sweep up, when you're done and this and that. Because he had some of his own gear too, But we had an extra little B room studio back there, set up, and so he came in and started doing his thing. And let me tell you, at first I didn't really get it,
Yeah.
But then go to one of his shows, and folks, this is before he was signed.
Yeah.
Before he had the big guns behind him. You go to any one of his shows and it was sold out. And I'm talking like 2,000 seaters.
Yeah.
And when you're selling stuff out at $20 a pop and you don't have the big promotion machine behind you.
Yeah, you're just grassroots in it.
Yeah, you're grassroots in it. Well, that's the shape of things to come right there.
Right.
And so he had come in and it was,
I think he should have used the name Potty Mouth Bob.
I think Showtime Johnny, that's what Showtime Johnny calls him, from the Holland Diablos. There was another band I played with in Detroit called the Holland Diablos.
Yeah.
All while this is going on, I would play every Sunday night with him. And Bob Rock would show up, and we'd let him bring his turntables. Him and Cracker would show up, and they'd hook their turntables up, and they would kind of do their thing with us, and I would just give them a beat and drop some bass in.
Yeah.
And then, now mind you, they had already been doing shows as Kid Rock, but it was just the two of them. And Cracker was the DJ, and Rock was, the front man. Well, and Rock will tell you, after he'd seen the Holland Diablos, he decided maybe I need a band.
Yeah. Okay.
And hence, then in comes Kenny Olsen. Bob Ebling was already doing his drums, and then there was an array of other people that Jason Krause came in on guitar, Kenny Olsen came in on guitar, but Bob started pulling people, from different parts of the Detroit scene,
Yeah.
people from the east side, people from the west side, and this and that, and the music sounded a little bit different in different parts of town, and Rock is kind of known for I'm going to take hip hop and some soul rock and some, I don't know all the rest of that, but you know what I mean? But he liked to mix all those different influences into what he was doing,
And it was definitely,
I can tell you this,
new kind of thing, because I remember when I'm sure it was right after he signed his big record deal, because they made such a deal out of the Bawa da Ba was the first one, I think.
Let me tell you a little bit about that. Do y'all remember Joe C? You remember Joe C?
Oh, yeah.
I remember the first time I met Joe C. I walked into the studio. We were going to cut some Bradley stuff. I think we were already signed. I walked into the studio. I walked into the foyer, took my coat off, had my this and this and that. I could hear some people back in the office. And I walked into the control room, and I see this little kid sitting in there rolling doobies. He's like 9 years old. And I just flipped out, man. I was like, what's going on here? And I went into the office. I'm like, who's got the 9-year-old kid in the A room rolling their joints for him? And they all started laughing. They're like, man, that's Joe C. Man, he's 22 years old. I'm like, all right. He was a little guy.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. He was a really cool cat, man. I really liked him. He was, he was a fan of Kid Rock before he was actually in the band.
He said he got him up on stage at a show or something.
Got him up on stage on a show, and he started potty mouthing, and all these little kids' parents came in and were like, "Little boy, are you lost? Do your parents know where you are? You shouldn't say those foul words."
Yeah, I remember. God, that video for Ball with a Ball when it first came out, they made such a huge deal out of it, like on MTV and everything. And
Oh, yeah.
it was like the countdown to this new
Oh, it was
thing
his
that they
whole.
wouldn't. Yeah,
Well, mind you, Rock was already selling. That's before that came out. He was already.
yeah. You said he was already selling places.
Yeah, he would like. I remember what was it? They were in Ohio in Toledo one night, and they ran out of. He would sign these. The kids would buy the little promo picture of him.
Yeah.
For like $10 or something, and they would stand in line. They'd buy the picture, and then he would sign it for them.
Yeah.
Well, they ran out of pictures, but the line was still going down the block. Cracker said, "What are we going to do?" He goes, "Tell them I'll just shake their hand, and they can take a picture. If they got a camera, I'll just shake their hand for $10."
And they probably
And
did
they
it.
did it.
Yeah.
And they did it.
Man.
You know.
Make money.
So he was already before it hit MTV. I mean, it was already it was already happening as far as
Well, yeah, like he had the success going, and then the record deal that he got probably just kind of like put the gasoline on the fire.
It was simmering.
Yeah.
For about a year. I think for about a year and 3 months to a year and a half. I think they were in a couple of Winnebagos, that whole troupe, right? But we had signed our deal with RCA, and Bob had been shopping. I know he had shopped around for deals, and he was having some. People were like, you're a white rapper, Vanilla Ice. He's like, no, man, that ain't what I'm doing, you dumbasses. Well, he had set up a meeting with Jason Flom, and he needed a ride to New York City, and we just happened to be going to New York City to play our signing party for RCA at the Mercury Lounge. So I'm like, get in, man. We'll give you a ride.
Yeah.
We're going, man. We're going. And he ended up emceeing our show for us and all that with his green cool hat. And we just partied that whole weekend. It was a good time. And he had his meeting. I'm pretty sure he had his meeting. I think that was the weekend they had the meeting, and he told them everything that was going on. And then after that, before they signed him, they came and saw one of his shows at the State Theater. Like 2,300 or 2,800 people, sold out. And he would do that once a month. And after about the third one, they were just like, yeah, this is a no-brainer.
Right.
You know? And he would call the studio every couple of weeks. I sold 10,000 records this week. And then a week later, I sold 40,000 records this week.
Wow.
And then he sold 100,000 one week, and we were just like, well, the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, it was nice working with you.
Yeah, it was nice knowing you. I mean, we're still pal. I mean, years later, he ended up. I ended up tracking for him on his Rock and Roll Jesus record, like 3-4 songs.
Nice. Which songs?
Roll On, what's it called? Roll On, Roller Coaster. And Blue Jeans in a Rosary, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, I love that song.
And a song called Low Life that John Eddie wrote.
Low Life, Living the High Life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my drumming.
Hell yeah. Good stuff, Shakey. So when did you move from Detroit? I guess he took off and all that stuff. And did you still do stuff at the studio after the Robert Bradley thing, or like when did that next move happen?
RCA ended up letting us go on the second record, which we were pretty bitter about because a lot of people thought the second record was even better than the first one. After
that fizzled out or whatever. What?
Well, a couple guys left. RCA had let us go. But there was Art Phillips left RCA and was going to work for, I think it was Vanguard. Yeah, it was Vanguard Records, Kevin Welk's label, and like it was like within a month we had this other deal offered to us. Now, mind you, 3 guys have left the band after the big deal went away, and it was understandable. The keyboard player, he was getting ready to have a family and stuff, and then the other 2 guys had their Vintage King business going.
Yeah.
It was understandable, but I was like, how am I going to replace, that. I mean, there's plenty of players.
Well, that much of the sound,
but
though.
the chemistry,
for sure.
and I pulled some good players in, and I was real adamant with them about, hey man, we have to really recreate these 2 records for the shows.
Yeah.
For the new stuff, we just got to figure out how to be a band and play together,
right?
So we did another record. We actually did it in Nashville, and that would have been, I think, 2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
It was a record called New Ground on Vanguard. Jay Joyce produced it, and it ended up there was a couple smoking songs on that, It came out, and it just kind of, it's just one of those things, man. It just kind of fizzled. It just didn't get the momentum behind it,
right.
Me and Robert stayed together till about 2003, and I love all those guys. It just didn't feel the same to me.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And I'm still in contact with most of them. You know.
When did you move here?
I moved to Nashville. I wanted to move to Nashville in 2001.
Yeah,
I wanted to move to Nashville in 1985. I think. You know what I mean? I ended up moving here in 2010.
At what point did you go sober? Did you stop drinking? It's been 10 years now, or is that?
It's been.
You put up the other day how many years or whatever.
What's today's date?
December the 18th.
It's the 18th. So
2017.
So it's been 14 days and 10 years.
Wow! Congrats. That's awesome. That's so long.
I always I borrow that old Papa Was a Rolling Stone song, and I kind of go, it was the 3rd of December.
Okay.
A day I barely remember. 'Cause that was the day of Shakey's last drunk.
Yeah. So the 3rd was the last day. So
2007, December 3rd, my last drunk was a 5th of mezcal. Oof. And it was me and some other guys, and that was something that I did regularly, and it had really gone from a fun, happy place into a crutch, and kind of like I was reaching for it all the time, man, because I was under a lot of stress the last few years. I was living in Detroit with the collapse of the economy, and I had lost, I wasn't playing I was still playing with some bands, but some stuff had gone sour. I was married. That was going south. And so I decided to clean up and at least get my head on straight.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, drinking has been, I grew up, my dad was an alcoholic. And the way I grew up, I just figured everybody was.
Yeah.
I didn't know any different, You just got to a certain age and you just start drinking. That's the American way, you know what I mean? And that's okay, I mean, if I could crack open a beer right now and have one beer, that would be killer. But guess what? One is too many, 100 is not enough. For me, I just know I like to put it into 5th. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
We're all so different in so many different ways. There are people who can just have a couple of drinks and then go home and go to bed. Exactly. But there are some people who a drink and a half makes them want, 29 drinks.
Well, 29 drinks and then other stuff.
Yeah.
Where's the cocaine? Where's this? Where's that?
Yeah. I want to go up. I want to go down. I want to go up and down.
And I don't want it to end. Yeah. And where's all the money?
Yeah.
So I actually I have 2 younger sisters. The day that hungover day, December 4th, 2007, I called one of my sisters who had done the NA and the AA program.
Yeah.
And at that time, she was 18 years clean,
Nice, yeah.
And I called her and I just said, I'm ready, I'm ready. Can you got a phone number or somebody I can call?
Help me figure this out, yeah.
And she did, man, that day. I had to go to work that day. I was doing some side work for somebody, and I had to go and do that, and I was miserable. But I got that done and out of the way, and then I went to my first AA meeting that night up in Warren, Michigan. And
did you have to like drop some friends from your life because of the change? Because I know a lot of people that talk about quitting, they have to like not hang out with these people anymore or whatever.
Well, what happens is a lot of your friends that, you know, just kind of continue to live that way.
Yeah.
They just sort of all of a sudden, you know, I don't know if they're embarrassed of themselves to be around you, or what really happens is all of a sudden you realize the only thing that y'all had in common was the boozing.
Yeah.
You know, the raging and the running, you know what I'm saying? And they just, with me, it was like they just kind of stopped calling me. You
just
know?
kind of faded away.
Well, I would still go to, like, I remember going, you know, 'cause my first year of sobriety, man, I was still trying to figure it out. I'm 10 years sober and I'm still trying to figure it out. You know?
Yeah.
But I remember going to some of the same parties. Now, mind you, I was playing bar gigs 3-4 nights a week, so I still had to go into that atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, but I did okay with it. Once in a while, I would do a fake beer, like an O'Doul's or something like that. And I would drink like 3 or 4 of them and just go, wait a minute, you're missing the point here. You know,
Yeah.
You know, you don't need that.
Right.
I'm here to shoot some, like, I like Americana. I like I mean, I like the nightlife. I like jukeboxes and juke joints, you know. I like how they stink, and I like smoking in a bar. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I like all that, but I can't dive into and try to swim to the bottom of the bottle.
Right.
Like everybody else, or like a majority of the folks that are in there every night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, so that took some rethinking, you know, and prioritizing.
Oh yeah.
You know, I still have. I'm still in touch with a handful of my old friends.
How long after being here when did you meet Too Slim and those guys that you're now playing with?
Yeah, Too Slim and the Tail Draggers. Yeah. Let me tell you, he is one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. You know, he's I
got to get him in here. I've never even met him.
Well, you know, he moved from Nashville. He moved out of Nashville. He's living in Eagle, Idaho now.
Okay.
Him and his wife. Me and Zach Kasic's the bass player. Me and Zach still live here, and Slim just flies us out, you know, when it's tour time and gig time. You know, we're flying to Colorado next week.
Nice.
We're doing a New Year's Eve gig in Winter Park.
Oh, cool.
So
there you go,
fun.
Winter Park, Colorado area people.
Yes.
Too Slim and the Tail Draggers. Where's the gig?
I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the venue.
I'll put it up. I'll put the website and everything up on.
I moved to Nashville August of 2010, and I met Too Slim through some other people that I had met once I had moved down here, and we hit it off, man.
Yeah,
we hit it off, and I didn't really know a lot about Too Slim, but over the years, I mean, we you know, all of us have played that circuit, you know. And I had seen his, you know, posters and this and that.
Yeah, it's cool when you get on a circuit or of different levels or whatever, and you're kind of playing the same venues, and you start to recognize names. You know, you see that, you know, a week ago so and so was here, and then you go to 3 states over, and you see that the next week that same person's going to be there or whatever. You know? We showed up one night. We're playing in Moscow, Idaho, and show up to load in, and I look up, and I'm like, I'm like, Shooter Jennings is here tomorrow night. What do? I call Johnny Stanton immediately. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, where you at? Oh, they were somewhere in Kansas. I think they were close.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're here tonight. And he's like, damn it, I missed you. Yeah.
Well, Shakey, I've got to pee really bad.
Okay, buddy.
And thank you so much for coming in and talking.
Man,
ladies
thanks
and
for
gentlemen.
inviting me over.
Check out Too Slim and the Tail Draggers, and I'll put a bunch of these videos and links and stuff in the show notes page. And rock and roll, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome, buddy.
Thank you so much for listening. Check out tooslim.org. That's TOOSLIM.org for Too Slim and the Tail Draggers tour dates and music and information. You can go see Shakey in action behind the drum set There'll be a link to that website, social medias, and all kinds of stuff over at don'tstifleme.com/040. And I'll also throw up some videos, music videos from Too Slim and from Robert Bradley and all the things that we were talking about with Shakey. If you enjoyed this talk, most importantly, make sure you subscribe to the podcast here. But secondly, if you'd like more access, some behind-the-scenes perks and things that other people don't get, well, you can get that over at patreon.com/DSM podcast. All right, the podcast social medias are all at DSM Podcast. Mine are all at Jacob Stiefel. And that's that. Merry Christmas 2017. One more episode next week to close out the year. I hope you have a magnificent rest of your day, week, month, and year, and I will talk to you again soon.